Oh, welcome back, you guys. Great to see you as always. Today, what we're going to do is we have two presentations. It's Tatum, and who's the second one? Peggy. Great. So we're going to have those, and then I want to definitely discuss glazing and answer some questions, and maybe have any kind of discussions you need to have about your Trump Lowell project and how you're going to kind of your plans on that. We can also, after the class, schedule one-on-ones if anyone needs one of those. And like I said, I wanted to just go a little bit over glazing, and I'll probably, I'm still trying to figure out, this place is surprisingly busy in the afternoons. I thought I was going to have the studio to myself, so it's been a bit challenging to get videos recorded. But I wanted to share with you how you can use slip, like the stuff that you make for slipping and scoring, right? Really watered down liquid clay to coat as almost like a glaze, but it looks and acts completely different. So we'll see how class goes and whether I just do that during class time or if I take a minute and do it after. We'll decide that. How's that sound? So how many people have, and then we'll also do a show and tell. Has anyone been able to pick up their glazed pieces yet? Has everybody dropped off some glazed pieces? Okay, cool. So you should get those back. If you haven't gotten them back, you'll get them back, I would guess. There's some here on the shelf. So if you can come in today to pick up, it depends on when you dropped them off. That would be an opportunity. Otherwise, Thursday or Friday or Saturday, you can come pick up. Does anyone have their pieces available to share? No.
Everything is either getting put through the kiln or for glazing or for just normal.
You're in the process of things getting fired.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can wait. I pushed back, I want to repeat that I pushed back our first big share. I don't really think of it as a crit so much as just a show and tell, given that we're entry-level beginners, so it's just more about tackling and figuring things out instead of being hypercritical. We'll push that back to week 8, right? I think I had said week 9. I don't like waiting that long, but we'll just check in next week to see what we have. Once we start getting enough pieces back that it warrants a show and tell, we'll do that. And what I'd appreciate, we'll check in next week. If we don't do it because that would be week 7. No, this is week 7. Shit, it's probably gonna have to be week 9. I want to reiterate though, the last really wet clay week is week 12, right? Because everything has to be dry to get it into a bisque, and then you have to get it back and get it back here so that we can conclude that last week, week 14. So let's really be sure that we're reverse engineering. Essentially, the classes are going to be, I don't really have that much more to share with you in terms of techniques. I just want to use the class times for any kind of show and tell and answering questions. And then we have the last few presentations. So let's start with questions first.
Yeah, I have a question. I dropped off my stuff to be bisque fired on Thursday, last Thursday. So I know you said to wait a week. So when do they put it in the kiln? I literally still see it. It's on the top left shelf.
Yeah, I see
but
it.
When do you think I'm gonna get that back to be? Because I'd like to start glazing as soon as possible.
Yeah, I can ask them today when they plan on loading. I would have thought I would have gone in already.
Yeah, me too.
But I'll see if I can ask them to do it a little sooner than later.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I saw them too. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering how I can get more glaze colors to glaze with. Should I just buy them from the studio?
Yeah, so here, that was one of the things I wanted to go over is glazing, because it seems like it's not necessarily completely being understood, the difference between underglaze and glaze and what your options are. And so underglaze, we talked about this, but underglaze specifically it works more like a pigment or a paint. It doesn't have the glass in it. It's not shiny. It's going to fire to a very matte finish. It's very hard to show. This is all This right here is an underglaze. If I touch it, it feels a little bit rough. This is equivalent of an underglaze. It's a little something different, but it acts like, so not this thing here. And even when I'm rubbing my hands off of it, I'm making it dirty because I have clay on my hands because it's rough. So it's very matte finish. It doesn't have anything shiny to it. This is going to be excellent for illustrations. It's going to be excellent for your trompe l'oeil if you're trying to do something really realistic, because it behaves just like paint. You can even mix it like you mix paint. So if you want orange, like Tatum you're asking about, you could mix red and yellow. I also have samples here. There's not a lot of them, but there's a good variety. In fact, there is orange, really, really neon orange here, that if you want, you could come and take some small amounts to use and to practice with. Now, I'm only gonna be here today, so you'd have to run over here today. They do sell little containers in the store for $1, or if you have like little pill containers or small yogurt containers or whatever with a lid, you could come get some samples. So there's blue, there's a little bit of black left, there's several blues, there's white, there's red, bright red. So if you can get over here today, you could come get some for sampling. They also sell all of those colors and more here in the store in little bottles, which are only like $4 or $5. So they're relatively affordable. You can also, this is what underglazes look like. You could come look at this chart here. Don't look at this up here. It's this down here is cone 10. And what they show you is what the color looks like if it's just put on the clay and no glaze over it, or if you put the super clear over it.
So if we use underglaze, we should do a layer of super glaze?
Super clear.
Super clear, okay.
Yeah. If you want it to be shiny and not reflective and not rough. It does intensify the color too, so it changes sort of the aesthetic of it, but it's really intended to have a clear coat over it. That was the idea. That's why it's called underglaze, because generally you put it under some kind of actual glaze that has the glossy, the silica component in it, okay? It's also really great though, because it works, like I said, just like paint. So you can do all those wonderful illustrations, you can get all those bright, bright colors. It's a lot brighter color than other glazes. And it can be applied to bone dry, or it can be applied to bisque. That's up to you. The benefit, we've talked about this before, the benefit of doing it to bone dry is you can apply it to bone dry, you can get it bisque fired, then it's chemically bonded to the wall, to the wall of your object, right? And then when you clear coat over it, there'll be no smudging, there's no messing it up at all, because it's permanently chemically bonded to the wall of your vessel.
So underglaze should be painted on when it's bisque wear, like before it's bisque fired or right after?
Yeah, before. However, it can also go on when it's bisqued, okay. And that's totally fine too. The only problem with it going on bisqued is you just have to be a little bit careful when you're brushing over that your super clear isn't super, super watery and you don't smudge. If you're trying to get really nice details, if it's just a large block of color, you don't have to worry about it as much. It's just if you're doing really delicate illustrations or really fine details like type, you'd have to be a little bit careful with.
So the super clear also goes on. It can go on before it's bisque fired.
Super clear is not, no.
It's glaze. It goes on glaze fire. Okay.
It goes on bisque.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, is everybody, go ahead, Diego.
Oh, I have a question that's not about glazing. So if you want to finish the glazing stuff.
No, I'm just gonna say that main things is, like I said, this is here. If there are other glazes here, they were pretty generous with the kits they gave you. But if you, for some reason, with your proposals, can write a very nice email to me that I can share, or you could send it to me and the studio saying, I really need this color to make my final work successful. Is there any way that I could get a small, you know, because you're able to get your glazes refilled, right? So they're offering you more glaze. I think if you can make an argument and write it very nicely, because you attract more bees with honey, right? Saying this is why I would like access to this glaze, and I bet we can make that happen. So if you can remember back, and what you can also do is you can just walk back in there with your mask on when you come to drop off and look at the colors, take notes, and say, this is the color that I want. Okay? Hope I'm not getting myself in trouble right now, but it seems logical to me that for your final projects, you should have access to a little bit wider range of colors. Okay? I think that's it in terms of glaze talk. What's up, Diego?
So I wanted to see how we can keep, doing all the ceramic stuff after the class, like after we're done with this class. Like, how would that work, basically?
You're not graduating?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
So you could enroll, there'll be 2 sections of the classes offered this summer, and you could just enroll as an advanced student. You could also consider taking the other one, which hopefully is, we're still in discussions of, this class will be repeated. And I have 2 students taking it right now, just like basically independent studies. Heather, the other instructor, if we can't do, it just depends on what modality we're in. She may be teaching one that's specifically surface treatment, surface decoration. So there'll be those 2 classes. Alternatively, the other things you could try is looking at any community colleges and see if you can get into one of their classes, because they're really affordable.
Okay.
I would suggest that, because community colleges are pretty dirt cheap. Or you can look at private studios. Here, you can fire here. They'll just charge you per square inch. So you can fire. So you could still continue in that way.
Okay.
I don't know what it equates to firing size-wise, but that is an option too.
Okay.
And there's other studios, they're popping up like mad. There's tons of studios now.
Oh, really? Is it on the rise for some reason? Or
oh my God, it's been on the rise for like the last 10 years, I think.
Wow.
Ceramics got really crazy popular in like the last 10 years. Like it seems like everyone does it now. Like literally everyone. It's kind of made me want to run away from it a little bit.
Yeah. Why is it? Do you know, or do you have?
I think it coincided first with the DIY movement coming back, and just people getting really tired of everything being technical and digital. Kind of a backlash of how we got so excited about technology, and so people were really craving more of the handmade and the opportunity for slower practices and a little bit more unique and unusual, as opposed to mass produced and same.
Yeah.
But but the good news is it's trickled all the way up. It's true in fine art too. Like it used to be for a while, years ago when I was like in college, your guys' age, it was super hot. Like it was super popular, and there were specifically galleries dedicated just to ceramics, and you could go to shows all the time. Then it kind of fell out of favor and really became more conceptual art, more painting again. But now, and so a lot of those galleries went away. Now we've seen a bunch kind of not necessarily be just ceramic, but really feature a lot of ceramic artists again. So it's good. Yeah, it's exciting. Okay. Yeah. So there are a lot. Like I just learned of a new gallery the other day. Not gallery, sorry, studio. So they run in different manners where you can either be a member or you can just fire. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, cool. So with that, let's jump into the presentations. And so I believe it was Peggy and Tatum. Who would like to go first? One or the other. Tatum, you're gonna go? Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you guys see this okay?
It's just white right now.
It's just white.
Yes.
Why is
Maybe
that?
hit the white screen, the whiteboard.
Oops. Hold on. I'm about to hit desktop. All right.
There you go. Is this
Okay. Now it's good, right?
It is Arneson.
Yeah, Robert Arneson. So I had a lot of fun looking up Robert Arneson. I don't know probably any ceramic artists by name. So yeah, here we go. Robert Arneson is a little bit more contemporary. He was born in 1930 and he died in 1992 of bladder cancer, or cancer that started in his bladder, but he had cancer. So yeah. So Robert Arneson was born in Benicia, California in 1930. He received his Master's of Fine Arts in 1958 at CalArts. And in his early employed life, he was a cartoonist for the local newspaper. He was very good at drawing. He kept a lot of journals and notebooks, and I saw some of his drawings. They're really, really cool to look at. And he was a professor at the ceramics department at UC Davis for 40 years. So that was his most like notable employment. So it looks like he just did that for most of his life. He taught ceramics and worked on his own stuff for most of his life, which I think is kind of cool. So this was one of his earlier pieces. You'll see his most notable work are busts and like self-portraits. So this is like one of the more different ones. And he was known as the like father of the funk art movement in ceramics. So I think that this piece kind of looks like that to me. So this is him next to one of his pieces. And he's very, very into doing ceramics of himself, self-portraits. And so I think that's kind of cool. You can see down here. And I just think this is really cool. But he also just looks very stoic. So yeah. His works can be found in various collections around the world, including the SF and New York MoMA and the Smithsonian, as well as so many places. I'll just flip through his work and keep talking about him. This is one of his more famous pieces. It's called Doyen. Let's see here. In the 60s, Robert Arneson and other California artists began to abandon the traditional functional ceramic objects and instead began to make non-functional sculptures that made confrontational statements. They called this funk art. And like I said before, he's known as the father of funk art. This one's called His and Hers. I think it's super funny. Yeah, it's super crazy. Yeah. So his body of work contains many self-portraits, which have been described as an autobiography in clay. So they're almost always of himself. And I think this is kind of a cool way to go into art because I think that Robert Arneson liked to do himself because it's so easy to make fun of yourself. And in the art world, I think in the fine art world, you can piss a lot of people off super easily. And you can just, I don't know, get a reputation super easily. But when you're doing it of yourself, nobody can say anything, you know? So I think that's kind of why he was doing this. This is one of his like more confrontational pieces. I think it's pretty cool. So I'm just going to keep flipping through here. So this is one of his most famous pieces. It's called California Artist. Let's see what I read about California Artist. Okay, so California Artist is talking about the pretentiousness of the East Coast art scene, which you can tell Robert Arneson was not very into at all. He stayed in California his entire life, and he made art only in California. And then he made this piece called California Artist. And look at him. Look how he's dressed. You know, he's very not East Coast art. And this was the piece that everybody talked about. And it's because he called it California Artist. And notice like the weed plant on the side of the wall. There's like a beer bottle. There's cigarettes. And Yeah, and then in person, you could see inside the glasses, the head is empty, which I think is pretty funny, because it's also him making fun of California artists. And yeah, I'll just keep going. I like this one. This is another self-portrait piece. Yeah. So Arneson's first retrospective was held in 1974. It was organized by the Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago, and the San Francisco Museum of Art. The next year, he was diagnosed for the first time with bladder cancer, prompting surgery and an ongoing struggle with the disease, which would plague him the rest of his life. So when Arneson got cancer, it kind of changed his work and made it a little bit more darker. So you see pieces like this where it's himself deteriorating. This one's kind of funny, but yeah, I'm gonna get to some of the more famous pieces, but I really like these. These are way more interesting to me. I think Arneson was taken really, his pieces were talked about very like literally. I think that's why a lot of people, if they had negative things to say about Arneson, that's what they would say, is that he was just put into a box of being completely literal. Like, look, it's just like his face and something hitting it, you know, like there's not really much to go deep. But I actually think that it's kind of cool when an artist just creates something so grounded, you know. I just think it's interesting. So this one was one of my favorite pieces by him. It was one of his more famous self-portraits. It's called Chemo 1. And it's like an older version of himself, and it's very hollow inside. The colors are really crazy. On the side are like different, like, I want to say like medical terms. Yeah, this is pretty cool. In his final months, Robert Arneson created 2 self-portraits, Chemo 1 and Chemo 2, literally right before he died. So this is one of them. And then I have Chemo 2 right here as well, which is really crazy. Yeah, I just think these pieces are really powerful. The color, the deterioration, the words on the side, it's just really, really strong. So the eggheads are probably what he was more known for now after he's passed. Just because at UC Davis, there's like 10 of these floating around. And so when he was working for Davis, the art committee wanted to pay him to do a bunch of pieces just to be around the school for a very, very long time. And he wanted to do something funny like these. And the committee didn't want to, or they weren't able to pay him for all of these pieces. He pitched them like 5, and they were like, we can afford 1 of these. And so Arneson kind of paid for all of these himself, and he just put in all his money. And these are called the eggheads. And you can see they're just these big heads that roll around the campus. And they're kind of funny. Like this one, it's sitting in a book. And yeah, and then students rub the heads before they have an exam for good luck. Yeah. So this is him in his studio working on them. I think this photo is my favorite. It's really fun. And yeah, and that's it for my presentation.
Yeah, so Arneson was working the same time as some of the, he was a little bit after Volkas and about the same time as um, the other artists that I showed you at the early, like they're all part of the California funk movement in a way, and kind of moved, like you said, past, they helped propel ceramics from being more vessel and more a craft into really being taken a little bit more serious into the art world. Yeah, I love his work. Did you see the dog, the one where he's a dog?
Yeah, he was super funny. I think he just really liked being the opposite of the New York art scene, which I think is hilarious because they're taken way more seriously than all these like California artists in a way.
But that's often just like the whole, argument between fine art and craft too. Is that there's definitely ceramic people who like to play that up. Like we're artists, but we're also very much from the craft world, and to, you know, call out the pretentiousness of the fine art world. I love it. I think it's great. Thank you. Very fun. Okay, Peggy.
Okay. All right. So the ceramics artist I chose to present today is Geng Xue. She is a relatively young artist, and she was born in 1983 in China and currently lives and works in Beijing. She graduated in 2007 from Beijing's Central Academy of Fine Arts, and she mostly uses porcelain as her medium, and she views it as like a link between Eastern and Western traditions. So a lot of her work uses like a very traditional blue and white palette. And just for like some historical context, China is very well known for its porcelain. So this is like porcelain from the Ming Dynasty. And as you can see, it's a lot of like flowers. It's very functional, and a lot of it, the designs on it are very decorative. So she uses porcelain in a very different way. I see like a lot of texture, a lot of like different like forms, very abstract. She also uses a lot of like Chinese mythology and stories as inspiration for her work. And her most notable work is this what's it called, short film that she created out of porcelain, and it was inspired by these short stories written by a Qing dynasty writer. I'll show it to you guys in a bit. But yeah, and these are some of her other works that were inspired by Chinese mythology. So as you can see, it's very like very different from what you expect from traditional porcelain. And she's exhibited her work all over the world, and is pretty well known in other countries as well. So I'm gonna play a little trailer from her short film. So let me go back to my presentation. Oh. Hold on, give me a sec. Yeah. So here are some stills from that short film. I decided to share her work because I felt that it really ties in with our final project, the place setting project. I just really love how she manages to create an entire setting and atmosphere using porcelain, and just how innovative and creative it felt watching that film. So yeah. And here's some behind the scenes sort of photos. And here's like a quote that I feel that really personifies her work. She says that art should be romantic and full of imagination so it can function as a counterforce to the unchangeable mainstream. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
That was really pretty amazing, Peggy, that the work itself, but then just the sheer work of turning it into the stop motion and all the special effects. It's both beautiful and eerie at the same time.
Yeah, felt very surreal.
Indeed. I hadn't seen the movie. I'd seen her sculptural work, which I really love how she captures like movement in them. There's like so much force and movement with having that, you know, kind of unmistakable historical context of the history of porcelain and the Ming Dynasty and all that. But I hadn't seen her film before, so that was new to me. Thank you. Very good.
A stop motion film out of ceramics. That was crazy.
All right. Well, I think we'll conclude and give you guys work time, and I'll be here at the studio for the next couple of hours if you want to come by and get some underglaze, or if you want to have any one-on-ones or anything like that. I'll try to, like I said, I have these forms here that I'm going to put slip on, so I'll do a quick video of that and share a couple other things, and I'll post that tonight. But otherwise, I think it's just work time. And that's mostly, this will kind of be how class will be for the next, because you technically have, and if you don't remember things, you can always go back and watch because I post everything. But you have most of the skills necessary now for basic hand building. It's just practice. And that's really what it takes. All right, just getting a feel for it, and then just being, also just, you know, clay itself demands some patience. So you have to be patient, but also get your work here so it gets fired. So try not to procrastinate on that end, because the one thing that we don't have complete control over is the firing schedule. So, okay, so with that, let's get to work. Be well. And let's see, so it's week 7. I think the decision regarding the classes for the summer is going to be made week 10. So as soon as I know, I'll let you guys know about those too, for those of you who aren't graduating. Okay? Okay, then bye-bye. See you. I'll be here.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.